Hey, what's up everyone? Tim here from Everyday Tactical Vids. Today we're going to be talking about episode 3 and 4 of Alone on History. As I always like to say, there are going to be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't watched up to episode 4 of Alone, watch those before you watch this video, because we're going to talk about various people that go home. In this video, we're going to talk about shelter, we're going to talk about Brit, and I also want to talk about some items that I was kind of skeptical about that people chose to bring, but they're kind of growing on me as the time goes on. All right, so let's talk about Britt. He had a good stretch of catching a bunch of fish, but then you could start to hear the way he was communicating to the camera those thoughts of missing home, missing his kids. Even when he was talking about his son dancing and how funny that was, he was laughing about it. You could tell that that was a thought that was recurring to him a lot. As much as he was enjoying the memory, he was also missing the family. And that's going to be a huge thing for pretty much everybody, you know, that make or break thing of like, am I able to stay here and not be with my family? And then add on top of that, him being frustrated and then having a stretch where he wasn't getting fish. And so, you know, hunger, missing family, all those things added together, and he split. So not totally shocked on that one. Did find it interesting that you had video of Greg, who has the issue with the fox stealing his bait from his traps. And you even see the fox like figuring out ways to get the food, you know, without getting caught in the trap. And then you had Britt, who was trying to store his fish basically in it looks like a small stream, and then just putting a couple sticks on top and some rocks. I'm relatively sure that those would have gotten, you know, snatched up by some sort of animal sooner or later. But regardless, you know, he still lasted quite a while. So props to you, Britt, for how well you did. And I would say that it seems like pretty much across the board, people have a skill set where they're able to stay alive. We're not at like day 5, you know, we're well into weeks out in the woods in Patagonia, and they're still staying alive. So Britt went home, but good job. And yeah, I'll be interested to see what his future holds as far as if he's going to move into, you know, wilderness survival instructing, or what else he's gonna be doing as far as the outdoors. Let's talk about shelter. Carly and Dave and Britt, and I think it's Callie as well, really all, you know, invested in it, kind of amping up their shelter. It's interesting when you compare that to Dave from season 2 and Alan from season 1, who seem to have pretty basic shelters. They didn't put a lot of time and effort into their shelters. Not that they didn't work, but they just kind of like, let's get the basic that's going to keep me warm and dry and not have a lot of bonus things. So they've put in quite a bit of effort. Dave in particular made that cool door at the end, which is pretty neat, and it opens and shuts, and he's pretty pumped. So yeah, just philosophy of how much effort and time do you put into shelter building versus other things, and that'll be interesting to see how that pans out. So, you know, my first video, my opening video talking about these watching alone and commentaries and stuff, I mentioned the idea of getting excuse me, a quick shelter up, just to be like, boom, shelter, good to go. Now I got a place to stay and then I can improve it in the future. But it'll be interesting to see how people move forward, and do they continue to improve it? Do they leave it and focus on food or other things? Dan is a guy who basically was like, you know, I'm a lazy survivalist. I'm just trying to stay alive. So his idea is keep the calorie expenditures low, so he doesn't have to worry about, you know, needing a lot more food. And he admits that he's a big guy. I keep looking over here because my computer's over here, and I've got the picture of the cast up. Anyhow, he's a bigger guy, and so he's got to take in more calories to stay alive and stay healthy and all that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see where the shelter thing moves in the future. A big issue is constantly food. So how are you going to get food? They're near water, so they can fish, but as you can see, the fishing efforts are not as successful as they once were. So this ties into items that I was skeptical about, but now maybe I'm a little bit more personally a little bit more open to saying, hey, maybe that wasn't a bad choice. So when people brought bows in the past, I was like, what are you going to get with a bow? But there are wild pigs or wild boar here. So, you know, with a big animal like that, you might actually be able to get one. It seems like when they were up in Vancouver, it was like very small things, you know, mice and maybe some squirrels and stuff, but nothing really big and substantive. So a bow would be really helpful. But here, I'm thinking about Dave, I think it is again. No, sorry, Greg. And him saying like, yeah, you know, if he can get a good shot on a boar, he's going to take it. That would be a lot of meat. That would just give a ton of energy and a ton of calories for quite a while. So I'm less skeptical about a bow and arrow, you know, the whole setup, than I was in the past. Let me tell you what I'm less skeptical about, but still kind of skeptical, is some of Fowler's choices. And I like the guy. He's very likable. And I feel like every episode I'm like, oh man, what is he doing? And then he kind of proves me wrong. So if you saw the duck boat, the duck hunting boat he made, the little paddle thing. I was like, that's not gonna, is that really gonna, is that the best use of your time? You know, asking those questions, and then boom, he caught some fish. So we'll see where that goes in the future. The shovel, the multi-tool, and the slingshot, I'm skeptical about. Him taking his time and energy to make a path, to me didn't really make a lot of sense. I wasn't there, so I can't judge to say. I would definitely have, you know, built some sort of path because that looked dangerous, but it just seemed like a lot of calories to use when you could have used them in a better way. So that's one thing. The slingshot, he was shooting at, so I think it's some old man's beard up on like on top of a tree, and it was like 20 shots or 18 shots, I think, before he actually hit it. If you've actually shot a slingshot before, even with the included, you know, pellets, the little balls, not stones, it's really hard to be accurate unless you spend hours and hours and hours getting good at it. So when I saw that he chose a slingshot, I was like, oh man, that's, I would have used the option as far as an item for something else. Now maybe he's really good, we just haven't seen it yet, and that'll be a big help. So again, I'm kind of like withholding judgment, but I know a lot of people when they talk about survival, let me put it this way, I've heard people who talk about survival, and particularly people who, you know, put comments on YouTube or survival forums, whatever, and they talk about slingshots as a great option, and I'm like, I don't know how many people have actually used slingshots. It's one thing to use it, it's another thing to hit your target, it's another thing to hit your target enough to either maim it or kill it so you can actually acquire it and then prepare it to eat it. It is a hard item to use. It is not just something you just, you know, learn overnight. So we'll see how those items pan out. The multi-tool I get, I can see there's a lot of different uses there of a multi-tool. So I could even see saying pass on the shovel, pass on the slingshot, but take the multi-tool. And the one thing else I want to add, one other thing I want to add is that Fowler has an axe. If you watched in episode 4, he actually has an axe in addition to the shovel. So when he was first talking about using the shovel, you know, the edge of it as like, you know, a chopping tool, like, yeah, you could do that, but it's not made for that. As far as most shovels are not built for that. But he has an axe too, so it's not like he just took that as his only chopping tool. So we'll see how that pans out in the future. As we wrap up here, let me show you a couple pieces of gear I was checking out. I got my latest battle box, and in the battle box is this, which is a Mora, and I think this is from their craft line. I haven't really gone into all the details on it yet, but got that nice finger guard there. Cool little knife. I've got a bunch of Moras. I like them all. I don't know if you can see it, but the spine on that is a little messy, and I've seen that on a lot of Moras. They just don't put a lot of time and effort into clean that up, which is fine because you're paying like, you know, usually like $10, $20 max for, you know, some of the basic Moras. So checking that out, there's a little sheath, and then I was looking at this, which is the Bushcraft Bible, and you can see apparently I was doing some cutting on it because I cut it. Oh well. So book still works. Bushcraft Bible by James Henry. This is the ultimate guide to wilderness survival. So this has got tons of information in it about, you know, from how to use a knife to how to make traps to how to make fire, all those different types of things. So that's kind of a cool thing to have. And then bump the camera there. Last thing is this knife from Tops. I really like Tops knives in general. This is the Cub right there. Tiny little, not tiny, but smaller knife. And yeah, got the little scallops there so you can get your finger up and do all different types of cuts and stuff. Comes with this ballistic nylon sheath. And yeah, so I was checking these out during the latest episode just to kind of, you know, entertain myself during the commercials. I thought episode 3 was kind of interesting, but not super interesting, and episode 4 was definitely more interesting. So we'll see how get that closed up. There's the sheath. Here's the back. We'll see how the next episode goes. I'm looking forward to seeing it. It seems like these guys already have, there's a degree of competence that they're able to last for quite a while. And they're not showing all the daily struggles. I think I mentioned this before, but there's no real discussion of water again, because they have that fresh lake, looks like right there, and some people have streams nearby. Whereas in the first season, that was like a big focus. Where am I going to get fresh water? Thanks as always for checking out the videos, and I've got links down below if you want to check out the previous videos that I was talking about alone. We're up to almost, at this point, which is January 1st, we're up to almost 10,000 views on the review of episode 1, and then I think like maybe 5,000 views on episode 2. So I'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts, your feedback, and let's keep the discussion going. And stay tuned for future commentary on the rest of Alone Season 3. Take care.